Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And today I have here Mr. Kelvin Palmieri. He is the host of Next Level University. And we're going to have a great conversation, and hopefully we'll be able to bring a little positivity to your life and inspire you, motivate you, and try to get on that right path to success. I know I've taken a lot of his advice and gotten a little help, and we are growing like crazy right now. And I appreciate those words of wisdom, my friend.
Of course. I appreciate you having me on. For the listeners, Kyle and I had a nice conversation last time we were supposed to record. So this is the second time I've had the pleasure of sitting down with Kyle, but I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited to be here. And it's interviews like this that feel a little bit different on this side of the mic, because you do at this point feel like a friend. So you'll definitely get a more comfortable, calm version of Kevin today. So I'm excited.
Well, one of the things that I made a video on actually earlier today was talking about my inner circle and how that circle is small, but the people that I spoke to should have their circle small as well. And not to sound arrogant, but it's an exclusive club. And there's a reason behind that, is because, well, you know how it is. You have those certain people in your life that they don't want to move ahead. They're kind of in the stands watching as everybody else is running the race, or they just don't want to grow up. They like the party and all those kind of things, and that's not going to get you ahead in life. And do you have thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, and I have not heard anybody say this. I believe this is my quote, but again, I'm sure somebody said it somewhere at one point or another. Are the people in your life the best from your past or the best for your future? I think human beings are guilty of saying, well, we went to high school together, we went to college together. We have that story of we've been friends since kindergarten. And it's like, that's great. And I love that. I love that camaraderie. And I think that's amazing. But as you change and as you evolve and as your goals and your ambitions change and evolve, the people in your life are going to change too, because the people are such a big, important part of your goals, your happiness, your fulfillment, everything. They're such a big part of your environment. So I believe that what I've seen from people and coaching people and studying humans is people aren't afraid to lose love. They're afraid to lose people, because we hang on to people that don't even show us love. They just take up space, and we're afraid to create a void, but you have to create a void to attract more positive, more appropriate, more aligned people into your life. So I completely second what you said.
Well, I've had some friends for over 40 years, and because they don't want to change, I've had to let them go, as much as that hurts. I mean, they're there, and I love them from afar. And if they ever really need me, of course, I would be there for them, but they're not someone I'm going to be hanging out a lot with. And it saddens me when, especially some of the young ladies out there, they hold on to these guys that are no good for them. And I don't know what the power they have over these women, but to see them basically throw their lives away on somebody that treats them like garbage and is not helping them in any way, shape, or form. So I hope these words of encouragement will help them to move ahead. Find somebody. If you need someone in your life, then find somebody that's going to compliment you and is going to, help better you. So let's continue this, and tell us what exactly you do and in this world of positivity to help others?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm a podcaster. We're about to cross 800 episodes, which has been an awesome, wild journey. So that's my main thing, podcasting. But I also coach people that want to grow, scale, and monetize their podcasts. And I'm a speaker and a podcast consultant as well. So that really is, for me, it's getting in front of this microphone in my studio and trying to teach entrepreneurs what it takes to get to the next level of their life holistically. A lot of people are really good at, well, okay, not a lot of people necessarily, but there are some people who are really good at making a lot of money, but they're not necessarily good at their relationships, or they're not good at health. There's some people out there who are amazing at relationships, but they find themselves struggling to succeed in the world that they want to succeed in. And it's our goal to holistically bring that self-improvement to people with a no BS approach. It's heart driven. I just love people and I want to help, but I also love you enough to tell you the truth of, it's not just going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen by accident. And it's probably going to be the hardest thing you ever do, but it's also going to be the most fulfilling thing you ever do. So I spend the majority of my time in front of this microphone, and I'm grateful for that, because at one point that was my dream, and now I have to pinch myself some days, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, if I can make another statement,
Please.
it's very important to have complete balance in your life. You won't be successful if you don't have this balance. You might be a successful business person and make a lot of money, but you might not have a very good relationship at home, or a spiritual relationship, things like this. I mean, even in your finances, you could be rich, but still be frivolous and not take care of that part of it. And you find yourself in a hole eventually. But continuing on, how did you get to this point where you wanted to help people?
I wouldn't say I was rich, but I was a six-figure earner at 26 years of age. And I realized very quickly that that didn't make me happy. So much, in fact, that I ended up sitting on the edge of a hotel bed debating suicide. I had what everybody could ever want: dream body, dream car, dream partner, brand new place to live. Like, just everything seemed like, from the outside, it was amazing, but I was miserable. And I remember the first time I started podcasting and I started talking to people, and I felt like I was actually making a change. I was actually making a difference. And that was the first time I'd ever felt that way, Kyle. So for me, it was like, how do I replicate this feeling? And how do I do this more and more and more and more? Seeing a change in somebody who, number one, doesn't think they can change, and number two, maybe nobody's ever taken the time to try to help. That's always been a thing for me. I love helping. I just do, sometimes to my own detriment, genuinely. I was getting ready to, yesterday was a 4:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. day, working the gym straight through. And after my last call, which was a live podcast with my business partner, I walked out of my office into the hallway, and I got 2 text messages from my clients. And I literally told my fiance, I said, I got to set a boundary here. I can't do this right now. Like, It's been too long of a day. I can't go down that rabbit hole. That's how much I like helping. But, with every superpower comes a kryptonite, and you just have to make sure you balance it, going back to your point on balance.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I talked to someone on my podcast and was, trying to figure out, how am I going to reach my goals? And one of the things she asked me is, how do you feel when you help someone, or you're doing those things that you really want to do? So, well, I feel fulfilled. And think, no, how do you physically feel when that's happening? And when I finally kind of got the gist of what she was saying, I was like, well, I get this kind of butterfly feeling in my stomach. You know how it is, like when you're first in love and you have that feeling, and how wonderful it feels, and that makes you want to pursue that relationship. And she says, well, every time that you're trying to reach a goal, remember that feeling and try to get that feeling back. Do you get something similar?
For me, it's excitement. It's anxiety. It's not anxiety in a bad way, but it's like, I have to do this. Like, I can't do it fast enough. That's the feeling for me of, I'm an audio message guy. So if somebody reaches out to me and sends me a message, I'll hammer them with a 5-minute audio. It's just, I like communicating that way. And it's because I can say way more with my voice than I can typing away with my fingers. So I get so excited. I just want to help. Like, tell me what the problem is and I'll try to help. Again, not everybody's looking for a solution to their problem. So that's a fine line. Some people just want somebody to listen. And I've had to ask that question. Are you looking for advice or support? Which is a good takeaway for anybody watching or listening. But yeah, I get excited. I get excited for the opportunity to help because I know that I can help in ways that I would have benefited from early on in my journey.
Kind of a little subplot here, I guess. I know you probably run across those people that look for a quick fix. How do you kind of subdue them when that's what their thing is? Because we're in that society of instant gratification. You know how it is. You find something that you want to buy, you can just get on your phone. 5 minutes later, it's being shipped to your house, that kind of thing, or even on demand with television. I mean, as a child, it was always you waited till the next week to see the next episode. As to now, you can just click a button and you go right to the next episode. I mean, how do you take care of that?
I try to lead by example and lead through the stories of myself. We can talk about Colonel Sanders, who made the recipe for KFC, and it took years and years and years and years. We can talk about Thomas Edison. Like, there's so many stories of it, but I think people feel so detached from that of like, well, that was Thomas Edison. Like, that's not real. Where I can very easily say, and this is very applicable right now, we're getting more downloads in a day than we got in our first year. Why? Because it's a long game, because we're 800 episodes in, because we've had a bunch of amazing people on, and more than all of that, it's given me enough time to become a better version of me, a more capable, a more valuable version. So I always try to say, look, if you're looking for a quick fix, a short-term solution, I'm not your guy. I'm not your guy. And our podcast probably isn't for you, because we try to get to the root of everything. Are there quick solutions? Sure. But quick does not always equal sustainable. If there's a hole in the boat, you can put a glove on some duct tape on, and it'll probably hold for a little bit. But until you bring that thing back into port and plug that hole, you're always going to be taking on a little bit of water. So I try to do it through honesty, Kyle, of look, I didn't win through the short-term instant gratification. I didn't make money podcasting for years, a couple of years. So I can't tell you how to do it overnight, because I don't believe that exists. That's not in my blood.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, my situation, I've been at it for several years now. We were sitting there thinking about it last night. Gosh, it's been probably 5 years since I did my first podcast. And, I still haven't made that money yet, but now I'm starting to see that hard work is paying off. And like I say, growing quicker than I ever expected. It's, I don't know, the whole thing is persistence. One of the stories I like to bring up, do you know why they call that cleaning agent Formula 409?
I don't.
Because the first 408 times it didn't work.
Interesting.
The 409th one was the triumph. It worked the way it was supposed to. That persistence, that not giving up, but also taking your time to make sure that it's going to work the way you want it to work, and not that quick fix.
And you got to be doing it for the right reason. It very easily could have been, it's 409 because they said, look, we're going to do this for this reason. The reason was big enough to stick in it. And you got to find the why power. You got to find the why power to do it long enough. One of the analogies I use when I'm speaking and I'm on stage is I like to get down from the stage and go talk to somebody like this. I go up to somebody and I say, this is why power in a nutshell. Imagine there's a house on fire, and we're looking at it. That house is on fire over there. And I come up and I tap you on the shoulder and say, there's a crisp $20 bill in there. It's all yours. If you want to go in, it's all yours. Are you going in? And most people say, no, probably not. But if I run up to you, I grab you by your shirt and I say, Kyle, your family is in that house. You're not asking about money. You don't care about money. You're not thinking about that. That's why power, because it's love, because it's noble, because you want to keep those people that you love safe. If you have that level of why power behind your mission, you're way more likely to stick with it long term. You can't just do it for money. because that motivation fades. You can't just do it because it's fun, because that fades. I'm sure you've had time in your several hundred episode career where it wasn't fun and you didn't want to do it. I know I have. And it's the mission. The mission can be your motivation, but you got to be doing it for the right reasons, because it's going to suck. There's going to be times where it sucks. It's just par for the course, but you got to keep going and understand why you started in the first place.
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many days there was. It's like, gosh, I hope this person doesn't even show up because I just don't feel like it. But the persistence, as I said, you keep trying and you think about what is my end goal here. And of course you're going to find those times where you don't want to do it. And one of my mottos is get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people, I mean, it's kind of ingrained in us to stay comfortable all the time, let's stay in the air conditioning. Let's don't go out and get in the heat. But look what you're missing out, nature and things like that. So of course, each situation is going to be different, but as a general rule, what is your best advice as far as, other than the persistence and finding love, what are the other things that you try to point out?
Just to what you spoke to, that's something I like to talk about a lot, is the understanding that you are going to have to be out of your comfort zone probably the whole time, but not necessarily in the anxiety zone. So there's a comfort, a learning, and an anxiety zone. I think people tend to go from comfort to anxiety back to comfort, where if you can figure out where your learning zone is, you're out of comfort, but you're not losing your mind. That's where growth happens. That's where things start to really balloon. And I always try to tell, again, I only know my story as well as I know my story. I don't know other people's stories because I don't know what's true to them and what's not. But for me, I always try to give this example. It took me 150 podcast episodes before I felt confident. 150, right? It's taken me, I'm terrified of planes. Every time I get on a plane for travel, that's a struggle. I'm in my anxiety zone every time I do it, but I keep showing up. That tenacity, that persistence of continuously showing up regardless of outcome, just show up. You're going to get way more opportunity if you show up, even if it's bad, even if it goes terribly. I think it's an important distinction that failure isn't a downward slope. If you fail at something, you're getting perspective, which actually is growth. And I think that's an important distinction, that when you get an F on your test, you fail the class. But when you get an F somewhere in life, you get to retry it. You get to retake the test with better, more honed knowledge. And I think if more people knew that failure isn't this like, I didn't succeed at this one thing, I think people would be willing to take more shots.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And I also look at when I was working for the city, I'd be that guy that would get the chewing out from the boss, and I'm like, why am I the one always getting jumped on and so-and-so's not? Well, if you think about it, it's because I'm the one that's always trying to do stuff and that person's not, but I'm also learning more. And with that, I got to become a supervisor. So you have to look at it in that way. Of course, yes, you're going to have those failures. You're probably going to be the one that's going to be, in the spotlight when it comes time to griping people out, but that just means you're doing something. So don't be that person that's just, sitting back and letting everybody else do the work. They're never going to move. They're always going to be in that same spot.
Well, and it's going to bite you in the butt. One of my favorite stories, and not favorite because I enjoy telling it, but favorite because I think it helps people. I went through the Massachusetts Fire Academy. Okay. I decided, you know what? I'm going to go through the volunteer fire academy. I'm going to be a volunteer firefighter, and I'm going to work my way up to a full-time position. And I didn't ask any questions throughout the entire process. When we're attaching the hose to the hydrant, I didn't ask. When we're running hose and folding it up and rolling it up, I never asked. I never asked how to use certain tools. I never asked what to do in certain scenarios. And I had one of the higher written grades in the class. I go and I end up getting my license, my firefighting, certificates 1 and 2. And I'm on call And for anybody out there who doesn't know what that means, you get a pager and it's your job to show up to the fire station. If that pager goes off, rain, snow, doesn't matter when it is. So my pager goes off at like 2 a.m. and I hustle my butt down to the station. I get my gear on and we show up to a car fire. And in that moment, Kyle, I realized very quickly that you either get all the feedback at once or you get little bits of feedback along the way. And when they told me to connect the hose to the outlet, the 2.5, I had no idea what they were talking about. And if there was somebody in that car, or God forbid, it was a house fire, I was not going to be very helpful. I might even be detrimental. And that was the last time I ever considered myself a firefighter. I left shortly thereafter. I didn't ask questions. I was afraid of feedback. I was afraid to get out of my comfort zone. I was afraid to be judged, to look stupid. But when I showed up and the lights were on, I failed miserably. And that's the reason why. And take that as a lesson of, don't use my pain and avoid it in your own life, because I don't want anybody to have to go through that.
Yeah, that's the thing, when people don't ask questions and they're not trying to learn, and because they're so afraid, oh, I'm going to look stupid because I asked a question. They always say the only stupid questions are the ones that you don't ask. It's, you need to get involved so you know what's going on. I would rather look stupid for 5 minutes than really look stupid when, like you said, you're out fighting
you show up to the fire.
Yeah, and the place burns down because you didn't know what you're doing. Yeah. And by the way, I know what all those are on the fire hydrant because I worked on them.
See, I could have used you. If I could have had you on speed dial, I might have been all right.
I'd have been there to help too. So what's the big plans for the podcast moving forward?
That's a great question. So our goal is literally unreachable. And I like to preface that because when I say it, I think some people say like, that's crazy. Our goal is to put holistic self-improvement into the pocket of every human being on the planet for free. Is that ever going to happen? I don't know. Probably not. Like, what would have to happen for that to happen is just a whole slew of different things. But that's the goal. The goal is to do live events in arenas, to have the most successful podcast of all time in terms of self-improvement. And that's the reason we do things the way we do. Like, we do 7 episodes a week. It's not because I love podcasting so much I want to do 7 episodes a week. It's because that's what it's going to take to get the level of impact and mastery and profitability that we really believe we want. And I just think that there's a lot of ego in the world, and we try to be very heart driven about our approach. And I still have flares of my ego for sure, because I'm a human, and I think everybody does. But that's part of our mission, is to say, look, I'm a man. I go to the gym. I love mixed martial arts. I love watching fighting. I love a lot of that, but I want to be a good human, and I don't want to have to put anybody down to get up. I have an amazing fiance. I try to treat her with all the respect in the world and give her the entire world. And I want to be an example for men, and I want to be an example for women. I think a lot of our women listeners listen to us because they didn't think that existed. And it does. It does. There's good humans out there. And I just want to show people what good humans are like, and continue to get better as a human. I have a long way to go, of course, but I am committed to it.
Oh, this is an always learning type process here. And if you stop learning, well, then you've basically given up. I'm always looking for advice and try to improve what I do. You're probably the same way, and I'm going to ask you that question. Are you your own worst critic?
It depends on the situation. Some things I'm really good at taking messy action on and just saying like, that's good enough, I'll fix it after. But there's other things where I got off stage last year or before the pandemic, and I literally said one word wrong. I said one word wrong in my speech. It just didn't come the way I wanted to. And I was so frustrated with myself. But like, Kev, you could have done better. So I think it depends on what it is. Some things, I don't believe the quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I don't believe that at all. I just don't, because there's certain things that I've chosen to do a not so good job of. You know, that's just the way I think. Like, I'll take the trash out. It's going to get out. it's probably not going to be my best performance. I'm going to save that performance for something that is more aligned with my goals. So it depends on the thing, Kyle, at the end of the day for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are times where it's just like, I'm just not into this. But then if there's something I'm really just passionate about, I'm going to put my all into it. So I agree with you on that. One of my friends who's become very successful, I asked him, what is behind your success? And he said, I took what I do best and I gave it away for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, then how do you make any money? And how do you, it's not about that. Do you kind of have that same philosophy?
Yep.
You give it away. Can you kind of explain why you do?
Yeah. The reason, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we live in this age now, this digital age, where people follow you in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And they follow you in your journey for value. And if you deliver more value than anybody else, when it's time to make a purchasing decision, they will come to you. That is just a belief I have because I've seen it. Like I do free calls with people. I did basically a free call with you last time.
Yes, you did.
Maybe one day you'll say, you know what? I really want somebody to do all of my stuff for my podcast. I'm going to reach out to Kev. If not, I don't care. It was still a great conversation. I believe that people can see your intentions. And if you add more value than anybody else, when it's time to find more value, I think those people will find you. And the second part of that is we live more now in a relationship-based economy than we do anything else, or than we ever have. So if you can build a strong relationship with people through giving away good, valuable stuff, they'll stick around. It's the long game. It's the long game. I always use the analogy of, if you're watching or listening, you might not resonate with this, but I'll try to make it land. When I was in high school, graduating from high school, there was a lot of different fitness products, pre-workouts and protein powders and whatever. And they would say, like, you're going to gain 8 pounds of muscles in 4 weeks, guaranteed. You'd buy it. It wouldn't work. And then the company would change their name to another company and advertise the same product. That doesn't work anymore. There's too many reviews. There's too much, you can see through that now. So we have to do it based on relationships and not based on quick selling people, going back to the delaying gratification. It's the same thing with your business. You have to build stronger relationships. Somebody asked me that the other day. They said, how does a small company like you plan on competing with Amazon and Walmart and Apple? And I said, we can just build better relationships. They don't have time for that. They have too many customers. So if we focus on the relationship, the sale, the influence, the impact, the profitability, everything comes after you focus on the relationship.
That's why I like some of these mom and pop places. Mm-hmm. Even though it might cost a little bit more to go there, I get the customer service that I want. I get that interaction. They'll come out and they'll say, hey, like a little restaurant or something. How did you enjoy your meal? Can I get you anything else? And they really take the time to get to know you, and I'll be more apt to go back in the future instead of going to, this fast food place or, the chain places that they just crank everything out. You come in, okay, sit down, let me get your order. Then they're gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally get that. And then I was telling you about my buddy. He's an architect, and he found a website where you could offer up your services for free. And so he said, hey, if you need plans for a home or whatever, let me know. I'll do it for nothing. I mean, that's a lot of work put into that. And he did it for someone, and they liked his work so much, they ended up putting him on contract. And then he was building multi-million-dollar projects, all because he put himself out there. They saw what he did, and he was more personable. So my advice is, if you can, sell something to people, sell yourself.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
You're proving the product before people pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, it's like I have the AirPods, the new AirPods, the most amazing technology in the world. It's like I can't go back. Even wearing these, it's like they don't cancel the sound. It's a whole thing. But imagine if Apple sent you a pair and said, hey, just try these for a week. If you like them, hang on to them. You can throw us some money. If you don't, you can just ship them back. Nobody's returning them. Nobody's going to return them because it's value. So I believe it's that. If you can deliver value for long enough, people will just start paying for it because they realize how lucky they are. And the other important thing is there's a lot of people out there, and I've been told this by a lot of coaches. They're like, you should be charging $10,000 a month. Like that's what you have to do. And no, I would rather promise something and over deliver than promise something and under deliver, because when you under deliver, people don't come back. And when people don't come back, you have to go find somebody else. And when you have to find somebody else, it's this rinse and repeat. The system is broken when you're doing that. When if you just consistently over deliver, people will tell other people about you, and that's how you'll get your name. But the best way to do that is free, because almost everything is over delivering when you're not paying for it.
I mean, you think about how much money we put into doing these podcasts. This comes out of our pocket, but for whoever wants to watch or listen, it didn't cost them anything but just a little time to download the app and look us up. But in the long run, my goals are, and believe it or not, I could actually see myself doing this. I wanted to be kind of like an Oprah, to have a show and bring people on and interview them. And before I know it, people are saying, oh, what kind of books do you read? That kind of thing. And, to get really huge, blow up like that, I could see that happening. And do I have the tools right now? I don't know, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. Eventually, I think I'll reach that goal. And I think it's very important too, that you have to have that confidence. You have to see the long term, that end goal. What's your advice on helping people to see their vision?
Like you said, do you know if you're capable yet? Don't know, but you're going to keep going until you figure it out. I was on a show the other day, and we had a very similar conversation. I said, one of the things I do every day, and I already did it today. I did it when I was eating my oatmeal this morning. It's called manifestation visualization.
Yes.
So I will sit down and I will put a mansion tour or my dream car, which is a Mercedes AMG GTR. If anybody wants to send me one, I'll put that up and I'll watch a review, or I'll watch them driving it, or whatever it may be. And I'm just imagining myself in that car, in that house. So I'm imagining something that does not yet exist. After I imagine it, I'm emotionalizing it. I can feel it. I know what it's going to feel like to start the car. I know what it's going to feel like to walk in that house. I've done it so many times in my mind. But that's where a lot of people get stuck. So if you're watching this or listening and you can see yourself somewhere, love it. That's half of the battle. My next question is, what is your strategy? What are you going to do every single day in order to get yourself there? Kyle is podcasting. So that is your way. Now it's like, how do I hone the podcast? How do I do that? How do I do that? And then the last step after you strategize is taking action, which you've already done 200 and some odd times with your podcast. So I think you're more aligned. You're probably more aligned than you realize, because you're doing the right things and you're trying to make the most important thing your one thing. But if you're out there and you can see yourself and feel yourself somewhere, I love that. I absolutely love that. That's half the battle. My question is, what is the vehicle that's going to take you there? And that is the strategy. How are we going to do it? And then are you actually going to show up every day? I think that understanding of, I talk about manifesting a lot. I believe in manifestation. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in all that. But I also believe that people, whether it's conveniently or accidentally, leave out the action and strategy piece. Like, yes, I know you manifested your dream home, but you made a strategy and then you took action. It didn't just happen. So I always like to say that of, if you have half the pie, that's amazing. We just have to bake the other half, and then you'll get the full pie and you'll have everything you want eventually. But it is that important distinction. If you don't know what the steps are, read a book, pay somebody for the steps, like whatever you need. I think that some people have an amazing imagination, but they don't necessarily have the strategy. Some people have all the strategy, but they don't necessarily have an amazing imagination. They know what to do, but they don't know what to do with it. And I think it's a balance.
And one of the guys I like to think about when it comes to manifesting your dreams is I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's out of Houston. We call him Mattress Mac. And Mattress Mac started his business out of the back of his vehicle. So he sold furniture out of the back of his vehicle. And eventually he got to the point where he finally got a store, and it's called Gallery Furniture. And I mean, the guy is so successful that he ends up sometimes giving houses full of furniture away. And he got so successful at, because he sold himself, he had this dream, he gave things away, that he was able to open another store. This guy, I mean, he financed a movie, that's the guy's extremely successful, and the people love him because he's Mattress Mac, and he had that goal, he had that drive, he visioned it, the whole 9 yards. And I believe anybody that's watching this or listening to this, you have that same, you can do the same thing. You just have to want it bad enough. And as I said before, I was taught that you find that feeling that makes you feel wonderful. With me, it's that butterfly feeling, that dopamine hit, I guess you call it. And that's my drive. That's how I keep going. Eventually I want to have that nice home, and living on a large piece of property out in the middle of nowhere, and chickens and goats and cows and the whole vegetable garden, the whole 9 yards. I aimed a little lower. I just want a Toyota truck. I don't need anything fancy.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I love Toyotas, man. But I can see it. And even if it takes me several more years to get there, I'm going to keep trying. And you know what? Even if it doesn't happen, if I've helped somebody, then I've already reached another goal, and that is helping folks. So I don't have anything else to say on the matter, but do you have any other words of advice for folks out there?
Find your one thing. That's what I would say. Mattress Mac, selling furniture. It's like, if you look at the most successful people in the world, or even if that's not what you're aspiring to, you're not aspiring to be the best author, singer, whatever. The people who succeed at the highest level in terms of their own life are the people who go all in on one thing. If you're chasing a bunch of rabbits, you don't catch them. You catch none. But if you're chasing one rabbit, and you plan for the rabbit, and you know the rabbit's route, and you know what it likes to eat, and you know when it hunts, and you know what it's afraid of, that's an easier rabbit to catch. So going all in on that one thing, and having what Kyle said of, look, I'm just going to keep sticking it out. I think of it like you're in a pool, and you have to learn how to tread water first, and then you have to learn how to swim. And then you have to learn how to do a different kind of stroke, the breaststroke, the backstroke. Like you're going to be in the pool for the rest of your life. You just have to figure out how to stay afloat, and then how to move forward. And I have a similar thought process to you, where I believe anybody can have what they want as long as they're willing to do what it takes. Yes. And we don't always know what it takes. I didn't know what it was going to take at the beginning of this journey. Luckily, I've leveled up enough to where I can have the results that I do want, and I believe that. But check in with that. If you get to the point where you're not willing to do what it takes to get what you want, that's okay. There's a new conversation to have. Maybe what you wanted isn't what you actually wanted. That's all right. You got to be honest with yourself.
Well, I thought of something else. A lot of times we make excuses, and, if I can just, get this class in, or if I could just or I can wait until the end of the weekend before I start that diet. If I could just make it a couple more days, I'll start. There's always some kind of excuse. The best advice, if you want to do something, is just do it. I didn't know what I was doing when I got into podcasting. My wife said, just do it, learn along the way. You're going to make mistakes. That's just part of being a human.
Mhm.
And you never know what you can aspire to.
There's no perfect time. Is there a better time? Is there a best time? Yeah, but oftentimes what Kyle said, the best time is right now. While it's hot. While you're up and moving, do that next thing. While you have momentum, do that next thing. Yes. I think we're all looking for that minute of motivation, when motivation oftentimes comes when you're already doing something.
That's right.
It's hard to go from a dead stop to a sprint, but when you're jogging, it's not that much harder to start sprinting. So I think you have to use your momentum and do whatever that means. Like, maybe for you, putting on your shoes to go to the gym is the first bit of momentum. Awesome. You don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours on the first day. Just walk in and see what it looks like. And then maybe the next day you get on the treadmill and you walk for a minute. And then that's it. It's like, you take your momentum and let your momentum do some of the work for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, when I was in high school, I wasn't the most fit person in the world. And I couldn't run around the track, but we started out where we'd run maybe a couple minutes and then you walk for a few minutes. And then before you knew it, you built that up and you ran a little bit longer, and then you'd walk a little while until finally one day I got out there and I ran for a whole hour without stopping. And I'm like, did I really do that? It's just a matter of getting out there and getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
Yeah, you can just search Next Level University. We're on every podcast app. We're on YouTube, all of our episodes. I am at Never Quit Kid on Instagram, speaking of perseverance and persistence. And then we have a website, nextleveluniverse.com. You can find us there, and we'd love to have you.
Now, you have guests on your show?
Yes.
So what kind of guests do you have?
So we're actually, and this is a good tip for other podcasters, if anybody's listening that is a podcaster, we are really honing our messaging. Mm-hmm. So our goal now is to have people who are genuine experts at their one thing, and that's like the only thing we're going to talk about. But if you're in the self-improvement space, we've had David Meltzer, he's a mentor of ours, Evan Carmichael, Dean Graziosi, Charlie Jabaley. We've had a lot of really, really awesome people in our space, a lot of authors, best-selling authors. But we're trying to bring people on who we know they're the best in the world at this one thing. We just had somebody on recently. His name's Phil M. Jones, and he's a multi-best-selling author, and he's been studying the importance of words when it comes to influence and persuasion. And he has a book called Exactly What to Say, Magic Words. And we literally talked to him about sales and how to make sales with heart, but understanding that your words matter and what words to use. And it was one of my favorite interviews ever because he's the best in the world at that. He's the best in the world at that. That's what his thing is. He's coached thousands of people. So our goal is to bring on an expert and keep them in their area of expertise to bring the most value possible to our listeners.
Oh, very good. Well, I believe your heart's in the right place.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate the fact that you took a no BS approach to this, and you're on the right track. And I hope the folks out there will be inspired and motivated to pursue what they want to do in this life. And I appreciate you. You really helped me. I'll say that.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you and your curiosity. Genuinely, I look forward to following your journey, and I also hope everybody listening, watching this continues to follow Kyle's journey, because I know you're doing it for the right reason too, and that's what matters the most to me.
Well, I tend to think that I like folks, just like people in general. And you can ask my wife, when we go out in public, I stop and I talk to everybody.
I believe it. But I love it.
My mom said I've been that way since I was a little kid. She would go to the store and she'd turn around and be gone. And then when she finally tracked me down, I'd be talking to, the guy mopping the floor or something, just
curious cat. You're a curious cat, Kyle.
Just love talking to people. And if you're new to the channel, thank you for dropping by. I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe And if you're a regular to the channel, your support has meant so much to me. And I thank all of you because you've gave me an extra boost with the way the channel is growing. And I just can't say how much I appreciate you. So with that, my friend, thank you for stopping by. And until the next one, everyone take care. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network